if inflation goes over to a certain amount, the price gets bumped up, or every year the price gets bumped up. I mean, some industries do that, like real estate, for example, property management. It's like, that's just part of the industry. But a lot of my clients would have a really tough time, doing that. So, Adam, what are your thoughts on price escalators? Do companies not make enough use of them? Do you feel that that's sort of like an underused tactic that companies can use to protect themselves against inflation?
Yeah, escalators are interesting, and they're a good example of how a tactic that was out of favor just a few years ago might make more sense today. Um, so, if we went back in time to the mid 2010s, not a lot of people were doing escalators because people were pointing at inflation. That's usually something that people use to drive or indicate what the escalator level should be. So at 1.5 or 2%, you would rather say, I don't want any escalator. I can add value to my product above and beyond 2%. And I'm better off having a negotiation every year and trying to get 5, 6, 7%. You had software companies. You would see around 2010, escalators were just getting introduced at 3% ish. Then they kind of stepped up to that 6 to 7% range. Coming to the end of the 2010s, right, going into COVID, you were starting to see double-digit annual escalators. And the theory there being the software was improving in value at such a tremendous rate in SaaS software that it made sense to pay these escalators. A lot of industrial companies and others weren't doing them. You kind of flash forward to today, that theory still holds true. So if you're able to add more value, if inflation's 8%, but you're investing in R&D, if you're investing in your customer service and you're adding 15% value every year, you should still not use an escalator and try to put yourself in a position to recover that 15%. But I think you will find as inflation accelerates, it might make more sense to go with a contractual escalator where your ability to negotiate those levels at a repeat basis would be really hard to manifest. So if you could get an 8 or 9% annual escalator contractually documented for maybe the next 3 years, that could be the win. But again, it's got to be really specific to your company, how well suited you are to create new value and then capture it through your sales force versus just does the concept make sense at a macro level?
As well as explaining it to customers, both new and existing, about this. Because like you said, it's not something that's as commonly used nowadays, although it was, back in the day. So that gets back to the whole communications, with your customers, why this might make sense for them, as well as yourself.